Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 7 of the Greg and Arsh podcast.
Today we have Roman Frolov, who is named a Forbes 30 under 30 and is a co-founder of Codesphere.
Welcome, Roman. We're so happy to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to meet new people.
Amazing. Awesome. All right. So tell us a little bit about where you grew up and how was life there?
So I was born in Russia, St. Petersburg, which is the second largest city in Russia. I was born to a middle-class family. At some point, both of my parents were entrepreneurs. So my dad had a small fintech firm. Like it was a startup back in like 1995, 96. And then it grew to like a small business that he was basically managing by himself. At some point, he had to close it, but I think it lasted for a good like 10 or 15 years. And my mom, she had her own Italian ice cream shop, which is
Wow.
like it's like gelato in
Gelato,
Italian.
yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
gelato.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Also, unfortunately, she had to close it. But yeah, these are my parents. And yeah, so I went to school. I finished school somewhere around when I was 10. My parents divorced. So I then lived with my mom. And yeah, it's like pretty early in my life, around 14. That's the time when my mom has started her gelateria, or ice cream shop.
Yeah.
I started working with her. And so since 14, I was always doing something. I was always having some kind of job.
Yeah. Wow.
That's cool. That's easily our best ever answer to that question.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's the super
Yeah.
interesting. So from a young age, you've kind of seen, the entrepreneurial lifestyle, and maybe you wanted to do that for yourself as well.
Yeah, so I think I didn't really view my parents as entrepreneurial, simply because the definition of word was blurry in my head.
Yeah.
For me, I grew up. I guess it's just the time when I was born and the progress of social media at the time. I grew up watching movies about Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and later Mark Zuckerberg
Yeah.
with the social network movie. And these guys were in my head entrepreneurs. Like, I think I never viewed myself as like a tech entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Because for me, it never connected at me and tech. Like I never thought that I can do that, because I grew up with the mindset that you have to be like born with this math brains, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I really believed in it. And that's why I never thought I could work in a field where science is required.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kind of brain do you think you had if it wasn't a math brain?
Ooh. I actually like drawing, so maybe something creative.
Artistic. Yeah.
I actually wanted to do something entrepreneurial, but yeah, never thought about tech. I was thinking maybe like having my own restaurant, or then later having my own hotel, something like that. Because obviously my mom's influence, like she started with her own ice cream shop, and then when it didn't go well, she still stayed in this business. She became a general manager in a restaurant, and then later of a chain of restaurants. So, and she's still there. So yeah, there's definitely some influence from her side.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah, well, now with Codesphere's success, maybe you can do the hotel thing after. Who knows? People start with
Yeah.
something, and then you just start
Yeah.
buying things, going up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Just
never say
invest a
never.
bit.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that'd be cool.
Awesome. So tell us about your time at St. Petersburg State University.
Yeah, so I finished school. I wasn't good at it. I think good is like even a very it's yeah, well, I basically barely passed my final math exam. Like I was few points above the passing grade. So that's how bad I was, not only in math but in all sciences. Like and then I enrolled into a university, which with the major of hospitality,
Yeah.
which includes restaurants and hotels. By that time, I was already working in restaurants for a while, and I actually switched from a restaurant to a hotel. So I was kind of like, everything was like perfectly aligned. And I was learning a lot while working at the hotel, and then I was going to uni and learning there. The one downside that I had is that my parents couldn't pay for the university, so I had to pay for it myself. So I basically worked full time after studying, which was a bit like
Wow.
challenging because like usually you spend like what 6 hours at the uni plus 8 hours at work, and then you have like some take-home assignments or homework to do. But yeah, I think the first semester was quite well for me. I pretty much passed all my exams at the highest grade, except for like I think 3 of them.
Wow.
But by that time, I realized that this is like not my major. I was like, okay, I'm working at a hotel, and I learned there so much that what I learned in the university is kind of like irrelevant. It's like there's some nice thing, but it's not enough to dedicate so much time and money for. So I decided to switch majors. Since I grew up like watching these movies and thinking about entrepreneurship, I decided to switch my major to entrepreneurship and finance.
Yep.
Well, that didn't go that well because after just I think 2 or 3 months, I realized that, well, that's not exactly what I envisioned it to be. Like I thought that we will be like talking about cool ideas and managing people, but I came to a class and I saw lots of formulas, lots of theory, and my like lecturers and teachers, they weren't, they never did it themselves. They probably also just went to university and learned it from somebody else.
Yeah.
So I was disappointed. I figured out that I'm not really getting value out of it. And I decided to drop out. I didn't have any plans, like no backup plan. I just dropped out, shot in the dark. And I was just following my gut feeling. I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. And that's how basically the whole journey started.
No, that's great. And honestly, like, yeah, to me, what sounds like is, you kind of know what you wanted to do and you stuck with it without second guessing yourself, which is, I think, that's great.
I think it was not necessarily that I knew what I want to do, but I knew what I definitely don't want to do.
Don't want to do. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100% of the way. I don't know how to phrase it in a way that doesn't speak badly upon business people. You did it extremely well. But I think the degrees are a little bit silly in terms, especially entrepreneurship, where they kind of teach you like that's they almost give you the mindset that it's impossible to start your own business and that there's so many different things in the way there. They might say, yeah, you can go and do it. But then if there's a million formulas and stuff in the way, it almost just seems like there's this massive like distance between you and actually starting something. And truthfully, there's not. Like you just go and do it within, whatever. Of course, it might take a lot of time, but you can just go do it without really any barriers at all.
Yeah, it's like what they teach is pretty much really far-fetched. It's like it's probably some knowledge that you will need after years of running your business. But the thing is, if you're running your business for years, you already had time to learn it.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Super hands-on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So so tell us about what happened after. There was a great story. Keep it going.
It's a great story.
Well, I dropped out in 2014. After that, I just simply continued working in a hotel, and I just turned 18, and I switched from a restaurant, from a hotel's restaurant to a hotel's bar, and I also combined this with working in a club. So I just became bartender. I was working around the clock, day shift, night shift.
Wow.
Yeah, was working a bit too much, honestly. Not good for physical health. But yeah, so worked there, and then at some point I got fired. So I lost one of my jobs because the club closed.
Okay.
And 1 month later, I got fired. So I got fired because I skipped company meetings because I was working like night shifts and the company meetings were like at noon.
Oh,
And so I
okay.
was just sleeping over them.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I mean, nobody gave me like kind of a notice that this is bad, like you need to attend
Oh.
them. They just fired me immediately.
That's
I mean,
weird.
it's a bit like chain of hotels. Like for them, I'm just like, very
Right.
small, tiny piece. So yeah, I got fired, and so I didn't really want to go back. I didn't want to just apply to more jobs, and I also saved a bit of money. Not much, but it was enough to purchase some goods and start selling them. So that's what I did. I opened an online store in a social media called vk.com. It's an analogy of Facebook
Yeah.
in the Eastern European part.
Okay.
And yeah, I just basically bought some sports goods and started selling them. Like for example, we didn't have Under Armour officially, so I shipped it from the US and
That's smart.
I sold it.
That's so smart.
Also, like iPhones used to be not waterproof, so we shipped like waterproof cases and sold them as well.
Wow.
But after like few months, I think like 3 or 4 months, I realized that okay, the sales go, but this is not very scalable. Like this business model doesn't scale without huge investment because hey, I invest my money, I sell everything, I get a small margin, now I invest it all again, and this cycle continues, but it grows so slowly, and it's like I can't even take anything out of it for myself. So I figured, okay, I need to change something. Since I already had this like public appearance on social media, I decided to convert it to just a page with the content. Since I was doing fitness, I basically started just before that, attending the gym. And so I started creating content about fitness. It wasn't personalized, it wasn't about me. It was just me finding content on the internet and just creating content out of it in my own public page.
Okay.
Okay.
This public page grew up to 150,000 followers.
Really?
Oh,
And
wow.
I started getting revenue from like brand deals. So they were purchasing ads. Yeah, I was what, like 18, 19, and
Wow.
I was getting like around like from $700 per month. Basically living with my mom, so no rent,
Yeah.
not really any expenses, playing Warcraft. I was just living my dream life. So slowly, unfortunately, the growth started to decline. The ad revenue started to decline. There were multiple factors. First of all, it's like there were many other public pages just like mine, and also
Yeah.
the whole social media thing was changing. Like 2014 is the time when the messenger started to appear, and these big giant social media networks started to go down.
Yeah.
That's when like Telegram appeared, WhatsApp, Viber, probably some other that I don't know. But yeah, people started switching and going away from these big apps. They just became overwhelming, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to start thinking, what am I gonna do next? Because this is clearly not gonna last for long. But yeah, I had no idea, so I just returned back to restaurants and continued working there.
Okay.
And yeah, that lasted for the next 2 or 3 years. Yeah, so returned to a restaurant as a waiter, transitioned to a bartender, and then to an administrator. And by 2016, yeah, basically until I started learning computer science, I was just working at a restaurant.
Okay. So 2016, you started learning computer science on your own?
Yes. So I went on a vacation, and during that time, I discovered a presentation of Elon Musk about the colonization of Mars. And I didn't know about the guy, and I didn't know about like SpaceX or anything.
Yeah.
I honestly, I think I didn't even know about any other like big CEOs except for Bill Gates, Steve, and Mark by that time. So kind of learned about Elon and what SpaceX is doing. That was very inspiring for me. It's like something clicked. I don't know, like something just clicked. And then after my vacation, I returned home back to work, and I decided to read about the guy because, like, I mean, what should be your bio that you are like talking about colonizing Mars? Like,
Yeah.
how is it even possible? And so I read that he wrote his first video game when he was 13, and by that time I was 21 and never tried coding in my life. I was like kind of offended because like, damn, it's like what I was doing at 13. I don't even remember. Not something smart. And I found a course on YouTube, which is
Mhm.
called CS50.
Yeah.
And I enrolled into it, and that's how my learning journey began. Um, I just started doing it first in my native Russian language,
Mhm.
but quickly realized there are just too many terms, and it just doesn't make sense to translate all of them.
Yeah.
So I switched to the original course and started doing it in English. That was really hard for me in the beginning. I spent like 3 hours for a 40-minute lecture, just translating
wow.
everything and
Yeah.
just writing down new words. But yeah, but by the end of CS50, I became way more comfortable with that and became easier.
Okay.
Amazing.
Wait, so sorry, did you not speak English? Is that what you're saying?
So I learned English at school. It
Mhm.
was it's like second language.
Yeah.
So Russian is my first, English was the second language. We had, I think, maybe 6 or 7 hours of English per week.
Okay.
There were no native speakers, so it's like our
Oh.
teacher was just a Russian person speaking English,
Hmm.
and it was really grammar heavy. But
Right.
we're like by the end of school, like we're barely speaking English. And I also, again, I didn't study well. I think the only year when my grades were above intermediate was the final year,
Okay.
and that was thanks to my mom. She brought me to a trip to Italy for 1 month where I started talking to other people.
Yeah.
And that kind of gave me comfort and freedom in starting to speak in a way that other people understand, which might not necessarily be correct, but I got this confidence that allowed me to like extend my knowledge
Yeah.
later on. So, and then working at restaurants, since I had, especially in the hotels, that was very beneficial because I got to speak to people from all over the world, and yeah, communicate in English. That's just an experience thing.
Mhm.
And then yeah, by the time I started learning computer science, my English level was, well, I could watch videos of like YouTubers like Let's Plays, but tech videos were really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you kind of translated and the CS50 that was at Harvard, right?
Yes.
Yes. Amazing. And so that was kind of your introduction to programming.
Yes, this was the very first thing I did in computer science. The first program I ever wrote was as a part of the course. It started with C programming language and then transitioned into the web stack with I did it with PHP, but then right after that year, they switched to Python.
Okay.
So I had, actually, there was a bug in the platform. I'm going to complain now to edX. There was a bug in the platform, and I had to do both assignments in PHP and then in Python
Oh,
because of the
really?
year switch. Because I started doing it in September 2016 or October,
Yep.
and like after New Year, the course changes, and so I finished my assignments before the end of the year, and somehow they reset them after, and I had
Oh
to
my.
redo them with Python.
Oh my.
That's funny. Well, on my own channel, I mostly talk about Coursera courses and not edX. A little bit of that, but I'm not really promoting
He's
them,
biased
so I don't
towards
care.
Coursera.
Yeah.
Yep.
I use Coursera as well.
Yeah.
Both are great.
Both are great. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you found out about Elon. You figured out he's truly a one of a kind person.
Complete genius.
Yeah, complete genius. And yeah, you also wanted to colonize Mars. No.
Well, space was definitely something I was interested about.
Yeah.
I think that's all thanks to the sci-fi. Like, many people grew up watching Star Wars or Star Trek. In my case, I grew up reading books of Warhammer 40,000 universe. and I was really just into it. It's like I started reading these books when I was like 12 or 13, so that was like almost a decade before I learned about Elon. So there was definitely something that resonated with me and this whole space program. Yeah, I think on the back of my mind, I definitely want to do something with space, but I know that there's like quite a big knowledge gap to
Yeah.
do that. So I wanted to start with just computer science. But that's actually really good that you asked, because right after CS50 and trying to apply to some programming jobs and getting rejected, after that, I was like, okay, let's think about it. What do I actually want to do? And so I figured out I want to do something in combination of mechanical engineering and computer science, and maybe something with 3D graphics,
Oh,
so
wow.
that
Yeah.
I can program something really cool and visual. And yeah, I decided, okay, let's enroll into university. But
Amazing.
what do I need to do to enroll into a university that requires like STEM knowledge? So I need to relearn everything that I failed to learn at school. And so I went to Khan Academy and just started from, I don't know, like 6th grade or something, and just
Okay.
started doing all the sciences, learning again. um, on the side, I was doing some courses, but they were mostly just, for fun. It's like there was no clear picture in my head how to use them. Like I did project management, I did entrepreneurial opportunities, and then I did Python for data science. All of them are quite like, random, especially when you start, like you have no connection, like how
Yeah.
are they going to be useful? But yeah, those turned out to be quite useful later on. I read the book, The Biography of Elon Musk.
Yep.
I read about stoicism. I don't remember how exactly I got to that point, but yeah. Um, and then, yeah, just studied this whole year. That was 2017. Enrolled into some courses of a local university. Like it was like physics/tech university. Started to go there, like attend on-site courses. I met a guy who introduced me to an Olympiad,
Oh.
which I later enrolled to. And this Olympiad had two tracks. It had two tracks that were kind of in my range of knowledge. Blockchain,
Yeah.
which was just like, getting a healthy trend before becoming very scammy. And the second one was machine learning, which let's say I heard of it, but I had no clue what it is.
Hmm.
I was like, oh, cool, AI. And so, yeah, I decided to go with the blockchain. That was something more familiar to me. Um, and yeah, just passed the first stage, then the second stage, and got invited to the finals. That was the end of 2017. And so the finals were in April 2018, so there were like a small gap. And in January of 2018, I decided to do something like something. I don't exactly remember how I came up with this idea, but I decided to go to Stack Exchange every single day, invest in it 4 hours per day, and answer questions I had no answer for. Like I was just doing research, finding a question that is like sounds interesting and complex enough,
Yeah.
and doing research, finding answer. It's like sometimes it's like doing research involved like building a POC, like proof of concept with a certain tag or library and whatnot. And then writing a concise answer so that the person and other people can benefit from it. And I basically did it for 1 month, and I learned so much that in February that year, I decided to apply to some jobs. Like, why not? Like, okay, I have this cool new skills that I can play around with.
Yeah.
Let's just apply. I got invited to 2 interviews. I failed the
Okay.
first one,
Okay.
and I succeeded in the second one.
Amazing. And the
And
second,
that's how
yeah.
I got a job at Wings.
Right. And that was your first like software job.
Yeah, exactly. That was my first ever software job. It started with an like intern position. I really like when I applied, I was like, I didn't really care about the salary, and I actually honestly I somehow this like salary part, like I just missed it completely. I never just thought about it. I didn't even know what is the range. So I asked on my job application, I asked for $600 per month.
Yep.
And they were like, oh my God, what is this poor guy doing? Like, and they gave me $900. I was like, I mean, cool. So yeah, I was completely out of the loop. And with my small bag of knowledge. I knew that I need to learn a lot, so I was writing down all the terms that I heard at my job. I had a pretty strong imposter syndrome because I was like, do they know who they hired? Like, I literally just finished like some courses on the internet.
Yeah.
So I was learning a lot. I was talking to my colleagues. I was learning from them. I was looking at what they are doing, because my part was smart contracts. Smart contracts are just an executable piece of code on the blockchain, which you can't change. That's the whole point of smart contracts there.
Right.
And I was specializing in them. But the rest of development, the other stacks, they were pretty much, I had no idea like how to interact with them. I had some fundamental knowledge which helped me in the future, but to begin with, started with nothing, started to learn backend stack bit by bit. Spent, I think, the first maybe 7 or 8 months just slowly like taking tasks and completing them and learning. Then I started to tap into front end bit by bit with Angular. Yeah, well, the first year was truly a learning experience. I also met my first mentor, who was a very strict and direct person. We collaborated on refactoring old legacy monolith backend into microservice architecture, like using all the nice design patterns and like 12-factor app. And that took us like three months around that. We were debating every single small decision, like even like syntax, like where to put semicolons or like whether to use them because we're using JavaScript. Then like where to put parentheses, where to not, and how to name the variables. So we had very long sessions of debating each other. And that turned out to be very beneficial to me, because during that 3-month time period, I learned more than during the previous like 8 months of work.
Yep.
So I'm really grateful to my mentor, Damir, if you're listening. Thanks. Yeah, so that and during that time, I also participated in quite a few hackathons. I think it was 7 in 1 year.
Wow.
And I also still attended the finals of the Olympiad, and we placed second in the group stage.
Wow.
That's so amazing. Wow.
One of the hackathons, that year I won 3 hackathons, which is like, now that I'm looking at it, that's like quite cool.
Yeah.
I didn't really realize because I was quite busy. One of the hackathons was in IoT.
Yep.
That was also kind of random because just 1 month before that, I decided to do a course on Coursera, building Arduino robots. And that was my introduction to IoT.
Is that, sorry to cut you off, that's something that you can do on just an online course, build Arduino robots? How does that work?
Oh yeah, they just give you all the required details. You go to the store, you buy them, and then you can just assemble them at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then it's just the regular course, like with the videos, to both assembly, like hardware and software as well.
Oh, cool.
Amazing.
Okay, sorry, carry on.
All right. And so I participated in this hackathon. It was September 2018. And we won it. And our project was a shared charging infrastructure for residents. Basically, we saw that there are private networks, but it seemed like private is just slow. So we're like, okay, what if we enable everyone to share their charging stations, get some profit, and then everyone benefits? Sounds like a great idea, helps the adoption of electric vehicles. So we did that project, we won. And that's how I met my later co-founder, Alexander, together with whom, basically half a year later, we co-founded Tau, my first startup.
Right.
Yeah, so the idea behind it, I think we were like, when we met, so first of all, we met absolutely randomly. Like 2 days before the hackathon, both of us didn't have a team, and we were just matchmaking.
Oh.
And so we just met. I think Alexander had more ideas than I. He had a concept, so he pitched me, and I was like, okay, like we're completely on board. Like this is what interests me. Let's do it. We assembled a team. We had like 6 people in this hackathon. And unfortunately, no one like sticked to the point where we found a startup. So we had to find a new crew. But so we did, and we had 9 team members. And although we haven't attracted any investment, we still built a product. So we had the charging station management system that connected with the electric vehicle charging stations of different manufacturers. And also we had 2 mobile apps, iOS and Android for drivers. And the system was field tested with Schneider Electric vendor, which is quite big, at least here in Europe, and some other ones. But still, we failed to find our product market fit.
Okay.
It was really hard to get customers. It's like, it's not that easy to come to someone and say, hey, you have your private charging station. How about you make it public and get money? It's not the same as just getting someone to go to your website and sign up. That requires more effort and more trust. And so, we just failed at that. And unfortunately, after 1 year of building the startup, also COVID started. And even like the small opportunities that we had by that time were gone. Like everyone, like investors went silent. And I was also running out of money because I basically took I left my full-time job. I had savings enough to do it for 1 year. At least that's what I calculated. I was right. And so I was running out of money. And so with all the circumstance, we just decided to freeze the project because we realized that, okay, like the problems were that we weren't like really flexible enough. Like we realized that, okay, if we were gonna course correct, like there is not enough like just months in our like runway.
Hey, wow, amazing.
So how do you go from just like learning software and then you just like jump into advancing the state of electric vehicles, like how or like start charging stations for them? Like you said like it was from a hackathon, but how do you like you took an Arduino course, but I can't imagine I'm gonna like take an Arduino course on robotics and then go out and do the same thing. Like how do you do that?
Yeah, how do you do that?
I think it all started with just me walking in a park. Like before the hackathon, before the IoT course, I was just walking in the park and I was like, I'm quite sensitive towards like trash, like waste on industries and pollution. It's like, I know it triggers me a lot. And so I was looking around and it's like, I come from a big city. Like St. Petersburg has like metro of like I think 8 million population or 9.
Wow.
And so I live very close to the city center on a big avenue, and the air there is just bad. And I was walking the other day and I was like, damn, why is it so bad? Like, why are we not doing anything? I was just looking around, like all I see is like gas cars, gas stations. It's like, okay, so gas stations, we need infrastructure. That was my thought process. I was like, okay, so we have these electric vehicle manufacturers. I knew about Tesla by that time. I knew that China will catch up with them at some point. And I was like, okay, we need to solve infrastructure. How to solve infrastructure? Can I build my own charger station? And that's when I got the idea, okay, I'll do an IoT course. And so, it was just like in my head that, okay, we need to solve this big problem. I didn't really care that like I can't do it. Like I was just like, okay, that we just need to do it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's so cool is that like you can do it, because then as soon as you like attract stuff like venture capital or whatever, like you suddenly have the resources to do things. I know that's for that project, that's not exactly what went down, but yeah, like you sound like Elon, like you're like, you read his book and then you're talking about all the same things that he cares about. So
yeah,
that's really cool.
He definitely inspired me a lot in the beginning. I also, by the way, fun fact, I think I never mentioned it, but I also have the same personality type. There's like this 16 personalities, you know?
Yeah.
And my type is architect, same as his.
Same as his? Okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, because like I'm super inspired by him, but then I can't intrinsically, at least right now, like care about the same sort of problems. Like I know that there's obviously these huge problems with air quality and stuff. I mean, where I'm located, it's not quite as bad probably, but I still know about all these problems, but I just intrinsically don't care enough. Like I just go and start being selfish and like make a YouTube channel to generate my own income. And I kind of wish that like I wanted to solve those problems more, because I feel like I have the drive to do it, but I just, for those problems, I just don't care enough. Like it sounds bad saying it aloud, like I don't, but I'm personally just saying like I'm jealous that like you're so nice and that you intrinsically care so much about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that honestly, it's just it's not something like you desire. It's just something. One day it just clicks and you're like, okay, I need to do it. Like it might be that you encounter a problem and then you look for solutions and there's nobody doing it, and you're like, okay, I have to do it myself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such an Elon. Like he flew over, I think, to Russia, right?
Yes.
Yeah. There you go. Because nobody was doing it in the entirety of North America. So he's like, okay, I'll fly across the world to go solve these problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's how many of these stories start.
Yeah,
guess so.
Absolutely. Wow. All right. So talk to us about Codesphere and kind of how you came up with the idea and just the story behind it.
So shortly after freezing Tau, I took just a break, just a break to relax, learn more. Started doing freelance on the side, and just a few months after freezing Tau, an investor who I earlier reached out to ask for money for Tau, he just called me just randomly.
Okay.
And he introduced me this concept of Codesphere, and he connected me with Alice, who is now my co-founder. And that was after Codesphere was incorporated, but before the pre-seed funding round was closed. So we met with Alice, and I think we started having like regular calls. I think it was something like once every few weeks or once a month. And then after the pre-seed round was closed, that was August, and then in October they proposed me. Alice reached out to me and proposed me to work as a freelancer, and I just started working there. Just did it part-time first because I wasn't looking for a full-time position. I was perfectly fine just working a few hours per week and then just doing my own stuff, like learning and also just programming fun projects. Worked for 1 month and then just realized that, not realized, but there was some synergy between us. So there is Alice and Jonas, both are my co-founders now. They started together, and I think Alice was the one who came up with the original idea, and then Jonas is his friend from school, and so they started it, and then I joined like just 2 months later, and after this 1 month of like part-time job, they offered me to join full-time, and although I didn't really want to work full-time, I really like working with them, so I accepted the offer. And ever since then, we've been together. One correction, it wasn't, I think, Alice who reached out to me. I think it was the investor who reached out to me and offered the job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And so tell us a bit more about what Codesphere does and then kind of your role in it as well.
Codesphere is a platform that provides end-to-end software development in the cloud. That's our elevator pitch. And then this encapsulates many, many things. So we start with the cloud code editor, meaning that you can write code in your browser. And the cool thing about Codesphere is that from the same tab of your browser, you can now build, test, and deploy this code. So you just write it, you ship it. Like no need for configuration. You already have like a domain. You can also connect your custom domain. You can scale it in minutes, in seconds. You can A/B test with it. So, and the idea is that we will continue adding more and more features, more and more services, and grow this platform, which will basically have everything you need in one place instead of going to different sites instead of using your local tools. We just want to simplify developer experience. Like that's what we deeply care about, because we struggle ourselves with developer experience. Like it's not optimal, and we know that other startups struggle with it as well, especially if we're talking about configuring infrastructure. Like if a startup needs to configure Kubernetes, that's like one person gone for a few months.
Yeah.
Me recently.
So we want to solve this problem. We want to make it simpler.
Fantastic. That's a great idea. Yeah.
So it's for actually developing code for like at any level. So even like a big company can use it to build out their code infrastructure.
I would say in perspective, yes. I wouldn't say they are our target audience, so we don't really optimize for them. We're really optimized for startups. Like,
Okay.
these are the people who have the highest pain. I mean, big tech, they can build their own tools if they want, but startups can't. So we're solving this problem first, and then we'll see.
Okay.
So when we go to the website, I wonder if we should. Is it live right now?
Yeah, Codesphere.com.
Okay. How easy would it be to just start doing something with it?
Ooh, so you sign up, you clone a repository from GitHub, and you just run it like you run locally. That's it.
Okay.
Oh,
all right. I'll do that.
And
after
you can
this,
edit it. You can edit it, and it will be updated in real time.
Okay.
Amazing.
Okay. So you do have to clone it. It's not just a website that has that built in.
You can also just create a new one and write code there directly. So it's just like a local code editor.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. So like when like if we do that, it looks something like VS Code or something.
Yeah, I would say still like VS Code and WebStorm, they're still more feature rich than Codesphere. But yeah, this is the vision at some point. We're gonna mesh in terms of features, but at the same time, you'll also have the benefit of the cloud and all of this connectedness of the services.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So is it obviously the services? Yeah. Also, is it largely built for maybe people that have bad computers, or like would it still be very useful to me if I went out and bought like a $5,000 computer?
Well, so it's definitely beneficial in terms of parity of the environment, because you might have a $5,000 Mac, but then another person will have a Windows.
Right.
And then you have to adjust your code in a way that it works for both of you. So with the cloud code editor, you have environments that are all the same. So you just forget about problems like that. And secondly, your app will grow and the requirements will grow as well. And with cloud, you can utilize the resources of the data center, which are virtually unlimited. Whereas with your hardware, you will just have to upgrade, until you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Fantastic. Amazing. We're definitely going to check that out after.
Yeah, I will.
Awesome.
Is it both for, like, I'm trying to think if it's useful for my own project, where like I feel like I got the development set up, but I don't have the execution set up for the users. So basically, have you seen these types of learning sites like Data Camp or any of the ones where you kind of code, like, do you know what Algo Expert is?
I heard of it, but I never used it.
Okay. Yeah. Something where like you go to a website and then it allows users to just write code, because fundamentally your browser is running JavaScript locally. And even stuff like Python isn't necessarily installed on your own computer. So generally, if I was to make a website, and people have done it, where like you want to go to your browser and write code in any language, that obviously has to be executed on a cloud, like possibly yours. I don't know, because your own computer doesn't have it, and the browser restricts you from using it anyway. Yeah, would it be able to build an execution setup where if you can code in the browser and it's going to go and run and execute that code on the cloud?
Well, you can definitely build an app on Codesphere that does that. We don't have like a native integration like that yet, although I don't think it's a lot of effort for us to add it. But yeah, Codesphere is just like a cloud platform. Like you can build anything on it. So
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Cool.
Fantastic. Awesome. Okay, so how did you feel when you first found out that you were named Forbes 30 under 30?
Ooh, currently I live in Germany. I relocated to Germany just last year
Okay.
to stay closer to the team because most of the crew is here. And back then, it was May, and I was in Spain just visiting it for a few days. And then just one day, while being at my hostel and working, I just get an invite, like an email on, that somebody invited me to a community in Slack or workspace in Slack. And I see like, okay, it's Forbes 30 under 30 community. I'm like, okay, maybe it's like, those who were nominated. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, let's check it out. And then I go into that and I'm like, there are many messages. I scroll a bit and I see, okay, these are people who were nominated. I'm like, okay, cool. Okay, I will see who won. I'm opening it. And then, I mean, there are like many people, like I'm just scrolling. There are like different sectors of technology. And we are in this like European, because like Forbes has like geo, so we're the European part. I'm scrolling, and then wow, Codesphere. And us three, Alice, Janice, and I was like, whoa. It felt surreal. Like I didn't really realize. I just sent the link to the guys, and I think like slowly started getting to us like maybe later that day or in a day after that.
Yeah.
I sent it to my mom. She sent it to all of her friends.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course. Who
of
wouldn't?
course.
And that was just a really surreal experience. Didn't think that we would win because it's like somebody nominated us, then Forbes reached out, gave some form. I filled out this form, sent it back, and just forgot about it. And then just boom, one day it happened.
It happened. Wow.
That's
That
really
must
cool.
have been amazing.
Yeah, it's really a unique experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So you moved closer to the team. How big is the team now? Is it grown?
So we started back in 2020. We were 3 engineers. And that was like after pre-seed round. Then we raised seed round early 2021. And we grew to like 30-something employees.
Wow.
Wow, that's amazing.
With most of them, predominant majority being engineers. And even when I say that they're non-engineers, actually, even people who work in marketing at Codesphere, they're also engineers. Like everyone is engineer at Codesphere.
Wow.
I think except for the finance manager.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we had. Although I must admit, we had to shrink the team a bit because of the current market situation.
Yep.
And now we're at 24 people.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's a nice sized team, I think.
Yeah, that's great. So most people are located in Germany, or is it kind of global?
So from the get-go, we have been a remote first company. Like all our processes are built remote. I mean, we started during COVID, so
Yeah.
I mean, that was the obvious choice of structure. And so we always had people from different countries: Canada, US, Germany, Portugal, Vietnam, Iraq.
Wow.
So yeah, all across the globe, different time zones. But still the majority was here in Germany. So where I am right now is Karlsruhe. This is south of Germany. Karlsruhe is famous for its KIT University, which is like I think second best tech uni in Germany.
Okay.
And this city is like, it is very interesting. It's like it's very dense in terms of engineers. Like there are I think 300,000 inhabitants in this city, and there are like 30,000 students of this
Wow.
engineering university. So Yeah, and since Elias and Jonas, they both studied at KIT, also dropped out. A lot of current Codesphere employees also studied at KIT. So
Right. Oh, fantastic.
Where's the company technically founded? Like, if you were to go public, like, what exchange would you be on and stuff?
so our main company is incorporated in Delaware, US,
Okay.
Right.
with a physical office in Redwood City, California.
Hmm.
And in Germany, we have a subsidiary company. So that's how we operate.
Okay.
So yeah, I
Cool.
guess if we would to go public, I guess it was like nice or something.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. Oh, like the location, you mean, or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought you meant.
And it would also be nice.
Yeah, it would probably be nice.
that as well.
That as
Yeah.
well.
What are the steps and roadmap to that, or is it just too premature?
I think just building a great product, like really, like solving the problem.
Yeah.
I lead the development department, and we are responsible for everything starting with like product research, design, and all the way to the implementation and keeping the product stable. And yeah, for my department is of course like the quality of the product, the feature completeness, and the satisfaction of the user, because really it's like after feeling this pain of like of the current developer experience, like really just want to improve that. And like philosophically speaking, since we have many philosophical topics during this podcast, if you think about it, like startups, like what they're doing is directly related to innovation. And what we care about in this world as humanity is the rate of innovation.
Yep.
Like the faster we innovate, the better our technologies, the better is medicine, the better our lives. So if we can help startups do their job cheaper, faster, then we accelerate the rate of innovation, which is just an absolute good. So why not do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of fast innovation, have you looked at any of the recent AI tools that are doing some cool things these days?
I'm definitely looking at ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I play around with it. I would say I still see its shortcomings, which are quite obvious.
Oh yeah.
But it's definitely a great step forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. And are you looking at AI in Codesphere?
I would say not really. I would say it still needs some more years.
That's
We're
honestly
definitely
yeah, that's a breath of fresh air to hear that a company's not just throwing all of the resources into AI finally.
Oh, I think I kind of learned it the hard way. Like since I worked at the blockchain, like
Yeah.
blockchain is just it's attracting buzzwords.
Yeah.
And in all the investors wanted to hear back then, it was just buzzwords. So I have developed this immunity to this, hype trains, and yeah, just staying woke, asking yourself questions,
Yeah.
and yeah, just making decisions based on the answers.
Staying woke, I love that.
Fantastic.
Okay. Archie, do you know when we started? It's saying 57 minutes right now.
Yeah, so we're almost about time. We're just gonna just conclude.
Okay. Did you have any more questions? Do we have any more questions?
Yes, actually, one last one. Do you have any advice for university students who are doubtful about their program, or maybe want to quit and do something completely different, but don't know how to approach that situation?
All right. So first thing is don't just drop out because somebody else dropped out. You're not gonna, if it worked for them, doesn't mean it will work for you. If you were doubtful about your university or your major, ask yourself what is the value that you're getting out of it, and can you somehow get value without dropping out? So if the answer to both is no, then yeah, you can proceed. But yeah, it's not gonna gonna be easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that there are great universities out there. There are great like professors out there. So yeah, just don't blindly drop out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
I completely agree. And it's also really tricky because while I agree with you have to assess what you're going to get out of the program, I feel like also a lot of the people go to school because you kind of it's a you don't know what you don't know type of situation. Like you kind of go to an area to figure out like why you're doing it, honestly, because like I studied math at the University of Waterloo, and to be honest, part of the reason why I just kind of blindly jumped into it is because my brothers had various successes there, but I had no idea as to what kind of successes I would get or even why I was doing it. So it's really tricky because at the same time you have to like ask yourself why you're there, but you also have to just have a belief that you're there because it's something you're going to find out why you're there, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely, it's not like you start studying and then you immediately know what's the value. I think it's like one thing I learned while doing startup is that like you kind of have to force yourself to learn like from others.
Yeah.
That's something that many like people in general don't do, is like connect with people who already did what you want to do and learn from them. Like if you're coming to a university, talk to people who are finishing the university, talk to people who are alumni, and just learn what they got from it.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly. Like learning from other people's experiences. 100%. Well,
I have one more question. Do you follow any like entrepreneurs that post stuff on LinkedIn and encourage you to do this type of thing, or you do your own thing?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I mean, I follow many people there. I definitely have entrepreneurs that I follow, but yeah, nobody really comes to my mind. It's
Okay.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just doing my own thing. Actually, something I didn't mention. I also did YouTube a bit back in
Oh.
like 2014. Mostly just let's plays and just fun videos. And I was just a copycat. Like honestly, I was a copycat. And after doing it for 1 year, I felt so bad about like myself. Like I just quit doing that. I just couldn't stand out the fact that I was directed by somebody else. And so I promised to myself that I'm not gonna copy anyone else, and I'm just gonna be myself. With like I would rather be an unsuccessful version of myself than a popular version of somebody else.
Absolutely. That's
True entrepreneur
fantastic.
statement right there.
Yep.
What kind of Let's Play people did you watch and compare yourself to and copycat from?
Oh, that was the time of PewDiePie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured.
And also, I think a little bit of El Rubius, who is actually like a Spanish channel, but he probably is quite huge.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic. Well, Roman, thank you so much for joining us. This has been so wonderful to kind of get to know your story, and it's a truly unique one for sure.
It is.
And yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Likewise, it was really fun talking to you. You're amazing, guys.
Thank you.
So nice.
Very
Thank you so
nice.
much. Yeah, that was a
Thanks
wonderful
so much.
conversation. You're awesome too.